Hello. I am making a flop video today. Haven't made one in a while. The flop. I'm listening to Jiddu Krishnamurti and Dr. David Bohm, as always. And I have my rose tea here. This is so invigorating. Wild rose tea. Slightly bitter, and I taste there's one of those, I don't know if they're called pennyroyal. It is a form of mint. It's a wild mint that grows in boggy, marshy type of wetlands. So after a long rainy season, the clay earth kind of settles a little bit, and then these purplish blue stems come with purplish blue flowers come out, and then has these intermittent flower tufts on the stem. Little bit related, I think it could be related to old, very, very old plants, could be related to horsetail or something like this, because horsetail also grows in that same environment. I'm just starting to learn about these different plants, and I wished I had a robot, a small robot that could tell me, if I show him the plant, that could tell me in detail everything about that plant and the name and how it evolved and what it's related to and what the healing capacities are and all of this. So, but this tea tastes really, really good. I don't think that mint is toxic. I don't think one should take too much of it, but I only had one stem in it, and I can already taste it because it has a very, very strong flavor and scent. Very, very strong, like a men's aftershave. And my husband Paul loves that smell. It's wonderful. It's in the mint family, so it has a very, very strong scent. Not mint, a little bit minty, but more like Paco Rabanne or something. Men's aftershave, some real strong stuff from the 70s. So that's how it smells. But I like it. It's kind of nice. It's fun. Love that. I love every herb and plant. And I think it also has a nerve relaxing and nerve invigorating effect, just like the roses. And the roses, they too have a slightly bitter taste, but that's what is the healing factor in it, the bitter taste. It's really, really amazing. It feels really, really good. And I started my day with almost a gallon of watermelon juice, just blended watermelon. It's so, so good. And it's so healing and so refreshing, particularly in the summertime. And Dr. Richard Scholl's called it a superfood. And that's kind of like all we need, for our bodies. Particularly those people who struggle with infection or have some kind of health problem. I highly recommend to these people, do a watermelon juice fast. Just blend watermelon and maybe some oranges and blend some apples and just blend it with very pure filtered water and drink that all day long, like all the time, all day long, so you get really hydrated. It flushes out all the toxins and it nurtures the entire body. So that's very, very healing for anyone with health problems or liver congestion. So that will really cleanse the liver out. If you do this for a month, you're going to be well. You don't need to go to any surgeon or have anything cut out of you, you know. So this is the truth. Listen to Dr. Richard Schultz. He talks about this. He had a he has a friend who, or I don't know if it's his friend, but one of the people that believe in Dr. Richard Schultz, another physician somewhere out there, I don't know, were somewhere in the middle of the United States, and he used to cut livers out of people, and he saw the misery that all of this causes, and it just doesn't make their lives better. And then he does liver transplants, from transplanting a liver from a carcass into that person, and then they have to take specific medications so the body doesn't reject that other organ. Even if they're the same blood type, you know, the body still knows very well that this other organ doesn't belong into that body. Yeah. So, and it's misery. I had a friend, she's a nurse, and she worked in the intensive care in Germany, and she told me horror stories of organ transplants where the bodies would just not accept it, you know. And then the entire stitched up wound the body would just not accept that foreign object, a foreign carcass piece, you know. And even these stitched up wounds, that wouldn't heal, nothing would be healing, and the person would be almost dead, like, you know, like really barely hanging on. And one time she opened up that sheet, you looked underneath, and there was this big cut that had opened up, and would just with this gaping abyss where she could look directly into the guts of that person, and saw that that liver was rejected, or the kidneys, or whatever it was. And she said, even as a registered nurse, she almost threw up when she saw that, you know, because that was, I mean, that was very, very gory and absolutely, absolutely horrific. So, yeah, I mean, I already knew then that medicine was not for me, you know, as a study subject, because I can't stand it, this kind of stuff. And it also, there's absolutely, it doesn't make any sense, you know. To me, that kind of stuff is not health. That's not, I don't put that into the same category as health and healing. So, you know, if you can heal your body with watermelon blended and fruits and pure water, and you do that for a month, or if you have to for 2 months, you're not going to die. You're just going to get well. And if you're overweight, you're going to shed all this extra weight. Yes, hang on 1 second. You shed the extra weight. Ah, yeah, 1 second. I'm making a video. 1 second, please. 1 second. Okay, Paul, I'm making a video. Oh, gosh. I didn't want to have to turn it off. I don't want to turn it off. I don't. My husband, he has trouble with boundaries. That's one real big issue, and he doesn't see the boundaries of someone else. You know, when someone else says no, that's a boundary. He will ignore that boundary. He will continue to talk someone into something and will not let go, or argue or make his point, you know. Anyway, if someone says, man, I'm tired, can we just drop the subject, he will continue to go on. And or if I say, please, I don't want to do anything with this right now, he'll do it anyway. Or It's just this no boundaries, and that's a real problem. And sometimes has driven me very, very, very angry. And it's a huge challenge for me, you know, dealing with the Medusa, with the anger that comes up then. That's a huge challenge. But it's part of my learning and healing process. I need to learn to, even in the midst of this, of being massively triggered by someone who doesn't respect my boundaries, to learn to still sit with it and breathe with it and just let it run through instead of acting it out, instead of snapping and getting really angry and then triggering the other person, and then the other person becomes defensive and it just escalates. So this peace thing that starts with me, it started with me, it starts with me, it will always start with me, it will always start with you, okay? It will always start with everyone, yeah? And this is how everyone should look at it. It starts with me right now, regardless whether the other person does it or not, okay? I can't be saying, oh, he didn't do it, so I don't know. That's not how it works. It starts with me right now, finished. Yeah. So I'm ending that cycle of misery, trigger, anger, ego, and all of this. So I want to I want to finish it. You know, I really do. You know, I really, really, really do. I want to finish all of this stuff, all of this mental illness escalation stuff, the OCD, the jealousy, the avoidance. I want to end it all. It's easier said than done, but that's why I'm working on it very vigorously. That's why I listen to Jiddu Krishnamurti. I meditate with that. And he said, you sit with these things. Just sit with it. And it doesn't have to be a specific ceremony, or you don't have to be sitting in front of some kind of shrine or something. You just sit on your chair. Yeah. The best thing is to sit with a straight back, and it doesn't have to be attached to a religion. This is a technique. It's part of philosophy and psychology and neuroscience. And it's yoga. It's not attached to something religious. People make it into this, but it's not. Okay, that message is from the Buddha and from other people that is applicable for us in our daily lives, and that is a present, okay, and it's not religious. So really the key is, a feeling comes up, don't let it out. Don't react it out on any other object, being, individual. So don't throw a cup. I used to do that. I have broken ceramics. I have thrown in LA because of Paul. I have thrown some kind of wooden club. He has one of those belly clubs. His whole wall was full of weapons. I had him take all of that off. I threw one of these wooden belly clubs that he used for Bel Air patrol when he was a patrol officer. I threw one of those into his mother's old antique glass cabinet. Oh God! It broke that window in the glass cabinet. It was some kind of Tiffany glass that was very valuable. Yeah, so that's not acceptable, you know. I laugh about this, but it's not fun, you know. It's not acceptable. This is not the way to live. So before we got Dave, Paul and I made the commitment because Dave can hear. Yeah. Kenny was deaf. So that was a little easier for Kenny. So he didn't have to hear us arguing all the time. But still, it's a bad vibration and all of this, which I was aware of and I didn't like. So I already worked on it. Then, of course, Kenny taught me a lot because he would sigh if I have a negative thought. And Papa Dog does it too. They're psychic. They can sense these things. I don't know whether they smell the different pheromones the body emits, or if it's a way we move, or the sounds we're making with the breathing. But I think it goes further than that. It's all of this, but I think it goes further than that. I think they can actually detect brain waves. So. And it appears metaphysical, but it really isn't. It's just meta, outside of the current scientific knowledge. So that's why it's called metaphysical. It's really only physics. That's all it is. But they all find it out eventually, and we'll get to discover more and more of the stuff that people find peculiar or supernatural. So it's really not supernatural, it's just natural. Supernatural because it's outside of our range of understanding. But brain waves, it's a form of energy, and the brain waves they have a ripple effect. They radiate out, just like a satellite for internet. Elon Musk's satellites in orbit, they also emit something. You can't see it, but they all emit this. And we emit this kind of stuff as well by thinking, with our thinking activity, with our neuronal action potentials that are in our brains, the spindle cells that are in the brains that are doing that are there for very highly cognitive abstract thoughts and associations. Okay. And they create a very powerful energy, and this energy gets emitted. So when we go into meditation, we let go of that, and it calms down, and the energy calms down in it. We can also measure this in electroencephalograms, of course. It was very interesting at the center. I did an EEG with Eric, a scientist from Denmark, and that was very interesting because every time I was lying down and in the horizontal and relaxed my whole body, my brain waves would go into delta, the delta waves. So when I sit up, my brain waves go back into the spiky alpha waves. So that's very interesting. So that means when I'm sitting up, my body is more on the alert and more vigilant and more nervous, I guess, also. Yeah. So I guess it probably has a lot to do with nervousness. All of this thinking, this really rapid thinking that people are doing all the time, they're not aware of it. This is also all alpha wave activity, and a lot of that thinking is frantic and not very beneficial. It causes actually a lot of stress in the body. It also causes the heart rate to go up, which is not good. Okay, so this rigorous thinking, this fear-based nervous type of thinking is causing stress, and it causes a chain reaction of stress in the body, which is not beneficial. It also releases cortisol, which is not good. It's a stress hormone. Okay, so they have bred rats in the laboratories that don't have that response, that stress response. Um, in the wild, they would not, probably not survive. Just like a person who, that's a very rare genetic thing. There are only like maybe 5 people in the world that don't feel pain, like physical pain or emotional pain. So I don't know how much emotional pain they feel, but I don't think it goes very far. It goes to a certain plateau and it levels out. While for me, for example, emotional pain can potentially go very, very far, and it has before I have become conscious about certain things in the world. It can go very, very, very far. And I know people where it went so far they couldn't handle it. They ended up taking heroin and drugs. So, but that's why we need to do meditation because, I've been jealous of these people that don't feel pain for a long, long time, for many years. I was very jealous and I felt entitled and I felt like, why do they have that and I don't? Why do I have to feel so much pain? But, everything has yin and yang, everything has plus and minus, of course. So, a person that doesn't feel pain would not survive like in a wild environment. They step on something spiky, they don't feel it, they don't feel the pain. They might feel a bit of a pressure, but they don't think of it. They think, oh, I just stepped on a rock, but in reality, they stepped into a spike that went deep into the flesh, for example, and they don't feel it. So that will cause infection. That can cause, if they don't pay any attention to it, they'll wonder why the leg swells up, and that can be very dangerous. So, yeah, individuals like this have been weeded out by evolution. So, probably happened here and there, but they didn't make it. So, with our current civilization, we can help these people and pull them through life, you know, because we educate those kids, we tell them, hey, you can't be putting knitting needles into your eye, and then later on when they become cognitive, they all understand, you can explain it to them when they become a little bit older. So, but that is what happened with this one lady, Gabby. When she was a baby, she just played around, as kids do, a kid plays around with something spiky, they hurt themselves, they go, oh, aha, I don't want anything to do with the spiky thing anymore. But if they don't feel pain, they will probe into their eyeballs. And so she had to have one eyeball removed because of this. It's very tragic, all of this. She bit into things, she bit into her skin, they had to remove her teeth. So yeah, that is the negative side of it. On the plus side, she has everyone is her friend, because also the emotional pain just levels out, doesn't spike up into extremes. Someone who has extreme emotional pain is probably not going to be so pleasant to be hanging out with, and that was the case with me in my life. So, I would be seeing everything that's wrong, and I'll be pointing that out, and I still do. And the dog mother in me, the deep caring is also, I saw a scientific report on that that was actually Dr. Robert Sapolsky who said that our anger will get much worse if we are a mother with a baby. So in my case, dog mom was baby dog, so adult baby, adult dog. It's always a baby, permanent baby, never. So when we have a dog, that dog will always be our baby. So it stays in this neoteny state, the newborn type of characteristics. That's also why people bred dogs to look more like puppies their whole lives. So because we like it, we find it cute, and it elicits that oxytocin and that mother instinct. So uh, as a very, 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 very strong dog mom, I have, so that in addition to the pain, in addition to the medusa and all of this, brings out even more of a protective, overprotectiveness to the point of paranoia and all of this. But I'm very well aware where the paranoia starts, and where the realisticness ends. So I'm very well aware of that, and I practice this, and I also practice meditation. And now, to which point my mind has to accept the situation that is going on, because there's nothing I can do about it. Sort of like accept the fatalism of that situation. And not be going into an overdrive at night on brainstorming on how I can twist myself out of proportion in order to save the whole world right now at once. No, I can't do this. I do a lot, and I want other people to do a lot too. And if other people don't help, then I can only help to this point. We have to do this together, or it's not going to get done. So we have to make the world better together. So that is really the key about all of us, and it's doable. We can do it. Ingrid Newkirk, for example, has been doing this, and she is amazing, a god level soul. Okay, you guys take it. Bye.